Hey, it's Mr. Fig. Welcome back to my channel where tough questions meet real answers, pushing you to become better every single day. Today's caller is Marshall, a loving father doing everything he can to keep his family afloat. But life keeps getting in his way. Down on his luck but full of heart, Marshall's story is one of resilience, struggle, and unwavering love for his kids. Can he find the strength to turn things around? Let's jump right in. This is your father figure, the dad who listens and actually hears you.
Yeah, hi, this is going to be useless, but my wife told me to call, said it might help or something.
Nothing stupid if it matters to you, son. I'm Mr. Fig.
Look, I'm not your son, okay? And I don't usually do this kind of thing, calling strangers about my problems.
That's fair. Would you prefer I call you by your name?
Marshall, just Marshall is fine.
Well, Marshall, you've already taken the hardest step by making this call. That shows strength, not weakness.
Right, sure, God, this is embarrassing. I'm sitting in my car in a parking lot because I couldn't face going home yet. Again.
There's no judgment here, Marshall. What's waiting at home that's making you stay away?
Nothing, I don't know. My kids need help with homework. My wife needs help with everything. Work's breathing down my neck about this project, and I can't deal with all of it right now.
Sounds like you're carrying quite a load there.
Yeah, well, that's what men do, right? We handle it, except I'm not handling it. I'm sitting in a parking lot talking to some strange rent-a-daddy.
Well, if you don't need a dad, then think of me as a friend. And handling things doesn't always mean handling them alone.
Whatever. My wife swears by your hotline, says you helped her friend through some rough patch. But I'm not, this isn't, forget it, this was a mistake.
Before you hang up, Marshall, let me ask you something. When was the last time someone asked you how you were doing? Really asked? Because I'm asking now. How are you doing, Marshall?
I don't know. No one's asked me that in a while. It's just 2 years ago everything was perfect, you know? Perfect job, perfect family. Then life threw me this curveball, and I don't even know how we got here.
What changed?
It started small. My son Tommy, he was always a good kid. His teachers loved him, he had friends. We got him started on soccer, the works. Then the teachers started calling, but for different reasons. He couldn't stay focused in class, started beating on the other kids, and then he would scream his head off if anyone tried to stop him. He was only 5, just a kid. And kids act up, so we figured it was just a phase.
But it wasn't?
No, he got worse. Way worse. Now he's seeing specialists, taking meds that never work. The doctors don't exactly know what's going on with him. We think he's on the autism spectrum, but he doesn't meet all the right criteria, so they're still testing. My wife went part-time to handle all his appointments, and I'm working doubles to cover the medical bills that insurance won't touch, and then I'm home with the kids when my wife has to go to work.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and the kid barely eats anything except crackers and chips, so we're constantly trying to find new ways to feed him something with actual nutrition. He's barely any bigger than his sister, and she's 3 years younger than him. Now my daughter's a whole other issue. She's trying so hard to be good, to not add to our problems. I think she's the quietest 4-year-old I've ever met.
Oh, wow. How are you handling all this?
I'm not. That's the thing. I'm drowning here, man. Every morning I wake up thinking, today will be better. And every night I go to bed knowing I failed someone. My son, my daughter, my wife, myself.
You haven't failed anyone, Marshall. No parent is ever 100% prepared to raise their kids. It sounds like your son has come with some extra challenges, and you and your wife have rallied around him to get him some help. You are taking all the right steps.
Am I, though? I'm hiding in a parking lot instead of going home. Some father I am.
You're not hiding. You're here talking to me, some strange rent-a-daddy, as you put it, because you care about your family. Your kids are safe at home with your wife right now. So it's okay to take the time to sort out your emotions, and when we're done, you'll return to them lighter.
I hear you, but it's not that simple. I don't even know if I can leave them alone with Nat anymore.
Your wife? What makes you say that, Marshall?
She's always been Anxious, you know. Triple checking the doors are locked, worrying about every little cold the kids got. But now,
Now what?
Tommy, the things he says to her. Last week he told her he hated her, that she was the worst mom ever, that he wished she would die so he could have a new mom. He kept going until she broke down crying. And this isn't the first time.
That sounds awful. How did you handle that?
I wasn't even there. I was at work, pulling another late shift. Found out when I got home and she was just sitting in the dark, wouldn't talk to me.
Has she expressed how she's feeling about the situation?
Not to me. But I overheard her on the phone with Ciara. That's her best friend. She said going to work was like a vacation compared to being at home. A vacation. What kind of mother says that about spending time with her kids?
A mother who might be struggling with depression, Marshall. Has she spoken to anyone professional about this?
She keeps saying she's fine, that her life has always been hard and she can handle it. If anything, she thinks that I'm the one with a problem. That's why she told me to talk to you. But I see her face when Tommy starts acting up. It's like she checks out. She gives up before the fight even starts.
And this is why you're worried about leaving her alone with them?
Yeah, I mean, she'd never hurt them or anything. God, no, but I'm scared she's breaking. Like one day, I'll come home and she'll just be gone.
Let me make sure I understand what you're telling me. You've got a young son who's struggling with behavioral issues, which has led to medical bills. Your wife had to cut back on work to manage his care, so you're working longer hours to compensate. Your daughter is walking on eggshells, trying not to add to the family stress. And through all this, you're worried about your wife's mental health, that she might be reaching her breaking point.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And you're carrying the weight of all this, the financial pressure, the worry for your children, concern for your wife, while feeling like you can't properly support any of them because you're stuck at work most of the time.
Yeah, that's right. When you lay it all out like that,
Yes?
it sounds even worse than it did in my head.
Sometimes getting perspective on our challenges can feel overwhelming, but recognizing the full scope of what we're dealing with is the first step toward making changes. Would you say that's an accurate picture of what you're going through?
Dead on. Except you forgot the part where I have no freaking clue how to fix it. Can I tell you something I've never told anyone, not even my wife?
Of course, Marshall. There's no judgment here.
Ava, my daughter, she wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, Nat didn't want another kid. Maybe, somehow, she just knew it would be too much.
But you wanted another child.
I begged her. Kept talking about how Tommy needed a sibling, how we could handle it, how perfect our family would be. God, I was such an idiot.
Because you wanted a bigger family?
Because she was right. She knew she couldn't handle 2 kids, but I wore her down. I promised I'd help more and be there for her. All these promises, and now look at us.
But it's not your fault Tommy has more needs than the average child.
No, you don't get it. Ava exists because I was selfish. I brought this sweet, beautiful little girl into the world just to be ignored. She's just lost in the chaos. We try to do special things for her, but something always happens with Tommy. And then it becomes all about him. She spends her days tiptoeing around her brother, watching her mother cry, barely seeing her father. What kind of life is that?
Children are resilient, Marshall.
Just don't. You know what she did last week? She packed her own lunch for school. She's 4. She said she didn't want to bother Mommy because Tommy was having a bad morning. A 4-year-old shouldn't have to. I did this to her. I forced her into existence just to suffer.
Marshall.
There has to be some kind of divine punishment for that, right? Playing God with someone's life just because I wanted to complete my picture-perfect family.
That's not what happened.
Isn't it, though? I had to have what I wanted. Now everyone pays the price.
Marshall, I'm no religious expert, but I'd like to believe God doesn't punish people for wanting to grow their family.
Easy for you to say.
Maybe, but think about it. When you and your wife were planning for Eva, did you have any way of knowing what challenges Tommy would face?
No, but...
No buts. You made that decision based on the information you had at the time. Hindsight might be 20/20, but we don't live life backwards. Let me ask you something. Do you regret having Eva?
No, never. She's amazing. The way she looks at me sometimes, like I'm her whole world, even when I don't deserve it.
Then what do you regret exactly?
I regret not being able to give her everything she deserves. The attention, the stability, the normal childhood I had growing up.
That sounds like frustration about circumstances not entirely within your control, so you shouldn't shoulder all the blame.
Maybe? I don't know. I just hate seeing her try so hard to be invisible.
Marshall, what I'm hearing is a father who cares deeply about his children. That's not failure, that's love. And sometimes love is struggle.
Love doesn't pay the bills, or fix Tommy, or make Eva's childhood normal.
No, but it's the foundation we can build on. Let's break this down into pieces we can actually work with. What's the most immediate concern?
I guess my wife. If she breaks down, everything falls apart.
Good. That's a concrete starting point. Has she had any time to herself recently?
Between doctor's appointments and my work schedule? Not really.
That might be something to address first. Even a few hours a week could help her recharge.
Sure, but who's going to watch the kids? We can't afford a sitter on top of everything else.
What about family, friends?
My parents are out of town. Hers, well, they're not in the picture. And most of our friends kind of disappeared when Tommy started having issues.
That's unfortunately common. But there are resources, support groups for parents of children with behavioral challenges. Many offer childcare during meetings. Have you looked into any of those?
No, I didn't even know that was a thing.
It is. And these groups often know about other local resources, respite care programs, sliding scale therapy options. You might be able to find something that reduces your burden, even just a little bit.
That actually sounds helpful. For my wife, I mean.
For both of you, Marshall, you need support too. And speaking of support, you mentioned insurance won't cover all of Tommy's care. Have you looked into state assistance programs?
I make too much for Medicaid.
There are other programs, especially for children with special needs. Some aren't income-based.
Oh, that's new to me.
You know, you're not alone in this. I speak with many parents just like you, good people trying their best to hold their families together while facing hardships they never expected.
Other people deal with this better than I do.
That's where you're wrong. Everyone struggles, they just hide it well. Some of the strongest-looking people are often the ones hurting the most inside.
But they manage somehow, right? They figure it out?
Here's the hard truth. Sometimes there isn't a perfect solution. With children like Tommy, finding the right diagnosis and treatment can take years. Some families never get all the answers they're looking for.
That's not very encouraging.
I know it's not what you want to hear, but accepting this reality might help you stop blaming yourself for not having all the answers right now.
So what? I just give up?
Not at all. You keep advocating for Tommy, supporting your wife, loving Eva. But you also accept that you can't fix everything. It's okay to need help, to take it one day at a time.
But my family needs...
Your family needs you whole, Marshall. Not burned out, not drowning in guilt. They need a father and husband who understands his own limits and isn't afraid to reach out when those limits are reached.
My wife needs me to be strong. She has enough problems. She doesn't want to hear me complaining too.
Leaning on your partner is not weakness, Marshall. That's wisdom. From what you've told me, both you and Nat are trying to carry this burden alone. You're working extra hours, staying quiet about your fears. She's managing most of Tommy's care, hiding her struggles. You're both trying to be the strong one.
What else are we supposed to do?
Be strong together. Right now you're like two pillars holding up different sides of the house, but if one falls, everything crashes down. What if instead you supported each other?
I hear what you're saying, but...
Let me finish. You mentioned earlier how Nat won't talk about her feelings with you, but she'll confide in her friend. And here you are, talking to me instead of her. Don't you see the pattern?
She's the one that told me to call you.
Maybe she did that because she wants you to have someone, anyone, to talk to, even if it's not her.
I guess we just want to protect each other.
And in doing so, you're growing apart. A marriage isn't about shielding each other from pain. It's about facing life's challenges as a team.
But she's already dealing with so much.
And you don't think she worries about you too? The long hours, the stress you're under? You're both playing the same game, trying to be superhuman for each other when what you really need is to be human together. I see so much strength in your relationship, Marshall. The way you both put your children first, how you've adapted to these challenges. But the strongest couples I know aren't the ones who never struggle. They're the ones that can be honest about what they're going through and accept each other's vulnerabilities.
I don't think that's going to solve our problems.
You're right, it won't. The challenges you're facing are real and hard. I don't know what the future holds for you and your family, but I do know that being on the same page with your partner can only make things easier. Would you consider sitting down with Nat and telling her how you've been feeling?
Honestly, I don't know.
You love your wife, that's obvious. But do you trust in your bond enough to be vulnerable? Think about it. Wouldn't you want Nat to come to you if she was feeling overwhelmed?
Of course I would.
Then why wouldn't she want the same from you? Marshall, are you still there? Tell me what you're thinking, buddy. I hope I haven't pushed too hard, but sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones we need most. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. I know you're still listening, so I'll keep talking. I want you to remember something, Marshall. Every time you reach out for help, whether it's to me, to your wife, to a support group, you're not showing weakness. You're showing your children what real strength looks like. They're learning from you that it's okay to ask for help when life gets tough. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. Just take one step. Maybe that's not talking to Nat. Maybe it's looking into those support groups we discussed. Whatever you choose, know that making the choice to act is already a victory. You're a responsible young man. Your love for your family is so great, I could feel it through the phone. Don't beat yourself up so much that you ignore the value you bring to their lives. You're just facing something many people never experience. It might not feel that way right now, but you're doing better than you think you are. Marshall, you are a good man and a good dad. You have my number, and I'll be here if you need to talk more. Marshall's struggles hit hard. His story is a reminder of how deeply life can test us, and the tests only get harder when your children's lives are on the line. Every parent thinks they're failing. They see only the moments they stumbled, the times they lost patience, the birthday parties that they wish they could make more extravagant. They count every tear, every disappointment, every time they couldn't make everything perfect. But children don't need perfect. They need present. They need parents who keep trying, even when it feels impossible, who get up every morning and face whatever challenges that day brings, who make mistakes and apologize and try again. We've created this myth of the perfect parent, always loving, always knowing exactly what to do. But real parenting is messy. It's learning as you go, adapting to each child's needs, sometimes just surviving until bedtime, and then not getting any sleep but still getting up in the morning to do it all again. To every parent out there drowning in guilt, questioning every decision, feeling like you're not enough, you are doing sacred work. The fact that you worry about being good enough is a sign that you are. Your love, your effort, your hugs, your kind words even, your discipline, that's what your children will remember. Talk to your kids about their dreams, encourage their silly passions, go to their games, their shows, cuddle up with them and watch a movie. The perfect parent doesn't exist. But the good enough parent, the one who shows up fiercely even when they're exhausted, they're the parent every child needs. And that's who you are, even if you can't see it yet. Your father figure, signing off.